you're anything like me, the most exciting part of the upcoming Fractured and Alterac Valley expansion for Hearthstone is the hero cards. So I wanted to take a couple of minutes to look at just the 10 hero cards. I feel like this is where a lot of the potential of the expansion comes from, and where a lot of the fun in deck building is going to come from. Taking a look here first, right off the bat, at Demon Hunter, Kurtrus Demon Render. Summon 2 1/4 demons with Rush, improved by your hero attacks this game. As we can see the tokens here, 1/4 with Rush. And the upgraded hero power is going to be +2 attack this turn after a friendly minion attacks. Refresh this. I definitely think there's going to be a deck to be had here. I don't know exactly how good it's going to be. I think that when you're thinking about playing this card, you're going to want to actually build your entire deck around this card. So we would be looking at playing things like Fury. We would want to play things like Chaos Strike, likely weapons in one form or another, probably multiple different weapons, to try to be able to attack with our hero as many times as we can to be able to buff the 2 summons here. When I look at this card and I see, summoning demons with Rush, it really puts me in the mind of Galakron Shaman. As you may or may not know, when Galakron Shaman first came out, it was extremely, extremely overpowered and had to be nerfed, I think. I don't remember exactly how quickly, but pretty much it was the only deck in the meta because it was so strong. I don't know that we'll be able to put together a deck quite as good as that based on this Demon Hunter card, but that's what it puts me in the mind of, and I think that experimenting with this card and Demon Hunter decks is probably what I'm going to do right off the bat on the very first day. Definitely think there's a lot of potential here. But really, with all these cards and all the decks going into a new expansion, whether or not they're good is going to depend largely on the meta that they're played in. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. Demon Hunter, definitely think this hero card is going to see play. Pretty good card. I like it. Moving on to Hunter. I would put the Hunter hero in the I hope this card is good, but I really don't think so category. I will say I love the artwork. Tavish looks like he's taped together about 3 different guns. This man is serious business, man. Look at that. He's got 3 guns taped together and just a look of determination on his face. As far as the actual card itself, Battle Cry, discover and cast 2 improved secrets. We have the improved secrets down here. Explosive Trap goes to 3 damage. Freezing Trap, the minion it bounces back costs 4. Snake Trap summons 3 2/2s. 2 3/3s coming out of Pack Tactics, and improved Open the Cages gives you 2 animal companions instead of just 1, and then Ice Trap. When your opponent casts a spell, return it to their hand. It costs 2 more. The regular version of Ice Trap, also a new Alterac Valley card, it costs 1 more. Where to begin with this card? I really want to like it because I had a lot of fun playing Secret Hunter in the past. I don't think we're going to have anything anywhere near as good as the previous iterations of Secret Hunter. Something that I've mentioned before in previous videos is Hunter almost always wants to build an aggressive archetype because of the hero power. The hero power, 2 mana, 2 damage to the opposing hero, is just really good, and you can build decks around that. And we've seen throughout the history of Hearthstone that those tend to be very, very good decks, and they tend to see a lot of success. So when you're thinking about this hero card, are you going to be able to build a deck with this card that's going to be better than the Face Hunter that's going to be around in Alterac Valley? And I have a hard time believing that it is, simply because when you play this card, you're going to be replacing the hero power, and we're going to be summoning a animal companion here. Summon Pet. Summon an animal companion. Your hero power actually goes to 3 mana, so you're paying full cost for these. I don't know for sure. I'm assuming that you get to choose, so potentially you could summon Huffer every time, which in theory could be good, but you're also having to pay an extra mana for it every single turn as well. So 2 mana the regular hero power, 2 damage face. Whereas 3 mana summon Huffer, potentially 4 damage face, but if they have taunts, of course, that damage just isn't going to get there. In some ways it feels like the hero power gets better, in some ways it feels like it gets worse. It's going to depend on the board state. But I feel like when you're playing this, you're going to want to build your deck. I feel like you just want to build like a full-on secret deck. Because when you replace your hero power, you have no guarantee that Hupper's going to be able to go face every single turn. So that means that you're going to expect realistically to try to win games from board, which means you're going to have a board full of minions. And of course, if you do have minions, then, you know, maybe Leok actually gets you more damage than Hupper does. So there might be some options there. But it's going to be hard for Hunter to be able to build a board and to maintain that board. Because typically what you see with Hunter decks is their board is gone, you know, turn 5, turn 6, there's just no board to be had. So then where is the damage going to come from? In order to be able to have that board, we're kind of dependent on the traps that we would be playing in the deck. So things like Freezing Trap, Ice Trap, that would, you know, potentially stop the opposing hero from removing our minions with spells, and then Pack Tactics and Snake Trap, really to be able to maintain or grow our board. It's just hard to imagine that this deck is going to be good. Hunter secrets generally aren't great in the current environment. Previously, Hunter also had the Eagle Horn Bow, which was a 3-attack weapon that would gain durability whenever a secret was revealed. We don't have access to that anymore. It just feels like this deck is going to come up short on damage. Really just wonder how you're going to be able to get there, and is it going to be better than just playing Face Hunter? I really don't think so, but when I think about building this deck, I think about including secrets. I'm not sure that Explosive Trap actually makes the cut. If Explosive Trap is in your deck, that would mean that you are planning to remove your opponent's board, or at least the smaller minions on the board. If your opponent has board control, and we have no board of our own to be able to win with, I don't see how we ever win that game. So I'm not sure Explosive Trap even goes in the deck. But certainly Freezing Trap, Ice Trap, Pack Tactics, and Snake Trap would be in the deck. Explosive Trap, I'm just not sure it's good enough. I hope this card is good. I really don't think so, but definitely going to be worth some experimentation, and love the artwork here. Jim Nelson, fantastic job on that. I really like that. Moving on to Mage. 8 mana, recast a spell from each spell school you've cast this game. I really don't think that this card is good. It's based on random, which, as we've seen, sometimes random can be really good in Hearthstone, but it's like low-value random. So when you think about the spell schools, you know, fire is going to be damage, so you would recast, say, like a Fireball or an Ignite. Ignite could be good, shuffling an additional Ignite in your deck. It kind of rules out playing things like First Flame, though, because you would never want to recast First Flame, Second Flame, things like that. You know, Frost, you're going to be looking at freezing a minion, or, you know, possibly like a Cone of Cold, freezing the board. Again, that's not great. Frost spells just kind of tend to be stall tactics. And then Arcane, you know, you could hit an additional Incanter's Flow, you could hit some kind of card draw, Arcane Intellect, or damage, possibly with Rune Door, but I really don't think that paying 8 mana for this is going to do a whole lot of good. And the improved hero power, deal 1 damage, honorable kill, gain 2 damage. It's going to be slow to stack up. There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to get an honorable kill at 1 damage. I just don't think it's a really good card. I think there's going to be new Mage decks that are able to be built and played without playing this hero card. I'm going to say that, you know, early on people are going to be experimenting. I think the card is going to see play early, and I think it's going to disappear really quickly as we get into the expansion and people figure out what's good and what's not good. Moving on to Warrior, Rakara the Valorous. Battlecry, equip a 5/2 Unstoppable Force, which is a weapon. After you attack a minion, smash it into the enemy hero. I really like the flavor of the card. It sounds fun. Your opponent plays a big minion. Let's just say they play like a Rattlegore. You punch into the Rattlegore, and then the Rattlegore hits the opponent. Kind of discourages your opponent from playing big minions just because you can hit them back. As far as this card, I think this is another card that I'm curious how much play it's actually going to see. I think that you could go with a more aggressive version or a more aggressive deck with this card. You could potentially also do a more control-y kind of deck. A lot of people are hoping that Alterac Valley is going to bring back control decks. I know there's people that like that style, and that's something that was really missing in United and Stormwind. If that's going to be the case, those control decks are going to come from Warrior, Priest, Paladin. We'll get into Priest and Paladin here in just a little bit later. but I don't know that control decks are going to be viable. The meta has to land in a very, very specific place in order for control decks to be viable. And where that place is going to have to be is there's going to have to be good aggro decks, because you're still going to have things like OTK Demon Hunter that has the ability to do insane damage in a single turn. You're still going to have Fatigue Quest Warlock that can do an insane amount of damage in a single turn, and is really infinite damage once that quest is complete, because of the way Fatigue works. And then you're also going to have potentially the new Humongous Owl Warlock, which is going to be another OTK combo style deck. So if those decks are popular and good, control decks don't stand a chance. It's just too much damage. You can't get enough health to not die to those decks. And so the slower control decks, they're just not going to be viable. So the meta would have to have good aggro decks that can keep those combo decks from seeing play, and then these control decks are going to have to be able to beat those same aggro decks. So we're going to see where we land, where we get there. I'm just not sure. We're going to have to find out as people start playing and start experimenting. Hero power here, deal 2 damage, honorable kill, gain 4 armor. A quick note about this, it doesn't say deal 2 damage to a minion, so potentially you could think about this as Warrior is getting the Hunter hero power, which is why I think you could potentially go for some kind of an aggressive deck. You can imagine, you play this on 7, you swing face with the 5/2 weapon. Following turn, you have an additional 5 damage minimum. If they have a big minion on the board, you can actually do more than 5. Again, say you hit, a big minion like a Rattlegore, bounce it back into their face for 9 damage as opposed to 5. On that following turn, you can get 2 damage from the Grand Slam, and then also the Warrior Legendary, I believe it's Captain Galvangar, 6/6. If you've gained 15 armor, gain 3/3 in charge, so potentially a 6 mana, 9 attack, charge minion as a finisher. As far as an aggressive deck goes, though, I don't know that you're going to have enough time to get the 15 armor to activate Captain Galvangar. Galvangar feels like he's going to go more into like the control version of the deck. Otherwise, how are you ever going to get your opponent low enough that 9 damage is going to finish him? If you're playing defensively, gaining armor, and just removing your opponent's board, you're not doing damage face. A 9-attack quote-unquote finisher isn't going to do you a whole lot of good. It's possible, though, that we can come up with something that'll get us there as far as an aggressive version of a deck with this. I would place Rikara in the we'll see experimentation, but likely won't be played after the first week to 2 weeks. We'll just have to see how it goes. Very creative minds in the community could totally be wrong here. Zarella the Devout. Battle Cry, trigger death rattle of every friendly minion that died this game. I feel like just right off the bat, the first thing that I think of is you slot this card directly into some of the decks that have been experimented with as far as like Big Priest, the Amulet of the Undying death rattle decks. I think this card kind of naturally fits into those pretty well, and then with the hero power, it alternates each turn. Restore 5 health, deal 5 damage. You kind of get some finishing power with this. And it feels like it just fits in, really clean to kind of, it's an existing archetype, but an archetype that isn't necessarily doing very well. Although I think it does run around like a 50, maybe 52% win rate up and down the ladder from Bronze to Legend. Not a great deck, but okay. Again, this feels more like a control deck, and it's going to totally depend on whether or not there are aggro decks that can push those combo decks out of the meta. At most, you're going to have exactly 35 health, and 35 is a low number for like OTK Demon Hunter, Fatigue Warlock, and Humongous Owl Warlock. Plus, potentially there could be some other combo decks, new ones that might be coming out. Hard to imagine that Control is going to see play in this expansion. We'll have to see. Again, it just depends on where the meta lands. That's probably going to be the only hope for a decent Priest deck this expansion, is if this does end up being good and there is some kind of a Control-y Priest deck. So we'll just have to hope for the best for Anduin and company here, and really just kind of see where we land. Moving on to Shaman, Brucon, Battlecry, call upon the power of 2 elements. Elements are Earth Invocation, Water Invocation, Fire, and Lightning. So we've got a couple of taunts, heal for 6 all friendly minions, deal 6 to the enemy hero, deal 2 to all enemy minions, and then of course the hero power, call upon a different element every turn. The way that's worded, I'm assuming that you couldn't get like Fire Invocation 2 turns in a row. It's actually going to only offer you a choice of the 3 that you didn't play last turn. It's an interesting card. It's really expensive at 8 mana, and it's kind of hard to tell where this is going to come down. It's just a tough call. I feel like Brucon is another one of the cards that's not going to see play because I think there are going to be better Shaman decks that just end up being more powerful, like the Freeze Shaman version. I'm not sure that you would even play Brucon in that deck, and I think that that is probably going to be the stronger Shaman deck. Brucon, again, early on, I think we're going to see a lot of experiments, but I don't think it's going to see play as the meta starts to develop. Shadowcrafter Scabs, the rogue card. Battle Cry, return all minions to their owner's hands. Summon 2 4/2 shadows with stealth. Just being gut level honest, I believe that this card is just totally bad. Hero power, 0 mana. Next card you play costs 2 less, so it just gives you 2 extra mana each additional turn after that. Here, of course, is the Shadow, the 4/2 stealth. I feel like this card runs counter to everything that you want to be doing as a rogue. Typically, rogue decks are going to be tempo-based, and when you think about the more recent rogue decks, Quest Rogue, entirely tempo-based, having a board, removing your opponent's board. Baron's Rogue, same thing, having a board, removing your opponent's board. And even to some extent, Garrote Rogue, you know, you have a board. There's games that you didn't always win with Garrote. There were games that you just had a big board presence, and your opponent wasn't able to come back from that. Or at the very least, your board presence prevented your opponent from having a board so that they couldn't kill you before you got the Garrote combo off. So when I think about this card, you know, returning all minions to their owner's hands, it's kind of like a board reset, and then you get the 2 4/2s in stealth, which in theory would be 8 damage next turn. In reality, I feel like the 2 health is not going to be enough. Those minions are going to be removed in a lot of cases, and they're just not going to get to attack. Your opponent could also play a taunt, and they don't get to go face. So I feel like this is a board reset for a deck that does not want board resets, and I feel like any rogue deck that you put this card in actually just makes the deck worse. So again, I'm happy to be wrong about that. I know there's some very creative minds out there. I just don't know what they're going to be able to do to be able to get this card to be any good whatsoever. I think just about anything else is going to be better. In my opinion, this is actually the worst hero card in the expansion. And for every worst, there has to be an absolute best, which is exactly what we're looking at right now. In my opinion, best hero card of this Alterac Valley expansion. Dreadlich Tamsin. Battlecry, deal 3 damage to all minions. Shuffle 3 rifts into your deck. Draw 3 cards. The rift itself it's actually a spell that goes in your deck. When drawn, summons a 3/3 Dread Imp, so it functions just like you know, the Druid card, the squirrels with the acorns. It's just so strong. Deal 3 damage to all minions at 6 mana, so in a lot of cases, a board clear. This is going to hit your own minions, of course, assuming you have minions on the board, but a board clear, shuffle these 3/3s in your deck, and then draw 3 cards. This is insanely strong. And then the hero power is shuffle a rift into your deck and draw a card. So the Warlock hero power, just being able to draw a card and take 2 damage, is one of the best hero powers in the game. And we're actually replacing that with a better hero power. You're going to draw a card, no longer taking the 2 damage, and you're going to shuffle another one of these rifts in your deck, which is going to increase the likelihood that you just have these 3/3s popping out of your deck, you know, anytime that you draw a card. It's just absolutely insane, and I feel like this is probably going to be a good candidate to be nerfed at some point. I think people are going to very quickly find out a way to use this to its maximum potential, and I think it's just going to be overwhelmingly more powerful than the other tools that are available to other classes in this expansion. It's just so strong. So strong. Even just draw 3 cards is strong, but potentially resetting the board, drawing cards, and then having the 3/3s in your deck, absolutely insane. This card is great, and I feel like that this card probably goes in every Warlock deck that's created from now until the time that it rotates. Super strong card. Taking a look at the Druid card, Wild Heart Guff. Set your maximum mana to 20, gain a mana crystal, draw a card. And this is going to change our hero power to Nurture. choose one, draw a card, or gain a mana crystal. This is another really, really strong hero card. I feel like this is second only to Dreadlich Tamsin. Set your maximum mana to 20, I feel like is largely irrelevant. There could be some games where you go higher than 10 mana, and it might allow you to do some things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. But I feel like it's going to be pretty rare that set your maximum mana to 20 is going to have a huge impact on the game. Gaining a mana crystal, that's a full mana crystal, so realistically this may only cost you 4 mana, assuming you can spend the leftover mana. Play it on 5, you gain a mana crystal, so you go to 6, you would have 1 mana. Assuming you can use that, you could think about this as only costing 4. You're not always going to be playing it on turn 5, so realistically it just really only costs 4 mana when you think about it. And draw a card, just really, really strong there. It's ramp, it's card draw. And then you're also replacing, in my opinion, one of the worst hero powers, gain an attack, gain an armor, with choose one. You can either draw a card, which would be akin to the Warlock hero power, but you're not taking damage, or gain a mana crystal. And gain a mana crystal, again, that's going to be a full mana crystal because it doesn't say empty. So if you gain a mana crystal, you're paying 1 mana to gain a mana crystal. Card's just busted. Not as busted as Dreadlich Tamsin, but still very strong. I think this is going to go into a lot of different Druid decks. Just a really, really good, solid card. And rounding it out with the even number 10, Lightforged Cariel, the Paladin hero card. Battlecry, deal 2 damage to all enemies, so we get kind of like a consecration effect. Equip a 2/5 immovable object. Immovable object does not lose durability. Your hero takes half damage rounded up. So once you play Cariel, you have a permanent weapon that's 2/5, unless of course your opponent plays something like a Rustrot Viper, something that'll destroy the weapon. You're going to have 2 damage from your hero every single turn being able to attack. Again, you get the consecration-like effect. And the real key text here on this card for me is your hero takes half damage rounded up. So if you punch into, say, like a 5-attack minion, you take half damage, which is 2.5, rounded up, so you would only take 3. So roughly, you're only going to be taking half damage for the rest of the game. This card fits perfectly into like a control archetype. I mean, it raises your effective health from 30 to something like, say, 45 or 50 because of the rounding. Potentially that's very, very strong. Being able to have the 2/5 to be able to swing with every turn is potentially very, very strong. Again, you just kind of run into the problem that the OTK decks are going to be out there. And when you're thinking about, even if you are able to maintain full health and say you're at 65, 30 health, and then the 5 armor, well, we would call it 70. Decks can do that much damage in a single turn, I mean, we've named 3 decks already. OTK Demon Hunter isn't going to have any problem doing 70, which gets cut in half to 35, which would be, a true OTK. Owl Warlock would be able to do it. And then also Fatigue Warlock, those fatigue numbers get really big really fast. So again, for cards like this, the Warrior can at least play in the Warrior hero card in a control deck. And the Priest card, it's really going to be meta dependent. How good the aggro decks are and how prevalent those insane damage combo decks are. So really hoping that at least some kind of slower decks come into play myself. I'm not a huge fan of control. I don't like long, drawn-out games where it kind of feels like losing is inevitable, because that starts to feel like a waste of time, to be honest. But I don't mind playing against slower decks, and I don't mind playing slower decks as well, just to kind of give you a different taste of the decision-making that goes into it. I think it mixes it up and keeps things fun. I just don't know that those kind of cards are going to be very good. So that is going to round out my review of the hero cards. Again, Dreadlich Tamsin, I think, is the best hero card in the set, maybe the best card in the set. And then also Wildheart Guff is going to be a very, very solid card for Druid as well. A lot of the other cards aren't going to be great. I think that history has showed us that with these hero cards, some are going to be really good and some just aren't going to see play. Personally, in my opinion, I think most of them aren't going to see play. Besides the 2 that I just mentioned, I think the Demon Hunter, the Kurtrus card, there's going to be some kind of Demon Hunter deck that utilizes that. The other ones, I'm not so sure about. Again, just my opinion. Happy to be wrong. Hopefully the community can go out there and prove me wrong. Questions, concerns, make sure you hit me up in the comments. If you think I've got it wrong, you think I'm totally way off base, make sure you let me know. I'll be the first to admit I do not know everything. I cannot think of everything. Thank you for watching. Good luck out on the ladder.